light, she slowly fades from us. Welcome to the Robin Sealark channel. Today we're going to be working on a colorful surreal color, multicolor portrait in oil painting. We're gonna go from conception, royalty-free image sourcing to photoshopping, transferring, and doing the painting. So enjoy that. Speaking of oil painting, my book Oil Painting Every Day is available for pre-order. Anyone who pre-orders can get a bonus PDF booklet this fall, and I'm having 2 painting giveaways for pieces from the book. The first is November 14th. Enter at robinsealark.com so that you can be part of the drawing and get the bonus booklet when it comes out. Thanks, and enjoy this. Bye. As the light came down over my studio, this is the image that I was filming to show you the image we're working on today. This process began using Pexels.com, which is a royalty-free image hosting site where you can connect with really cool up-and-coming creators. I happened to find this image through an artist in St. Petersburg. I believe you pronounce it Valeria Ivane. That's my guess. I'm going to link her in the description, but this is a very nice portrait that I decided to take into Photoshop and change around, try something with. I wanted to work in an 8x10" format. That was the size I wanted to cut my paper to, so I found the composition that I wanted, and then I made a second layer so I could have a maintained version of the original image while I messed with a top layer of color. I brought up my curve settings in Photoshop, and that allows me to mix around what my highlights and shadows are doing and get really interesting, vibrant colors from it. I like having some amount of realism as well as surreal color choices, so by making a mask on that top layer, I could erase out some of the different colored features and bring back some of the original detailing for the middle of the face. Now I am going to be working in oil paints today, but I'm working on regular watercolor paper. There is specific paper that's treated to work as oil paper without priming first, but because I'm not doing that, I need to make sure I prime this and cover it fully. I did 3 layers of white acrylic paint to seal it, and I allowed it to dry in between those layers. On one of those drying periods is when I brought over my reference photo, which I printed out, and I used Prismacolor NuPastels to transfer it. It's my last layer of acrylics, and now I'm going to transfer this image. I have a light blue color on the back of this photo, the powder of which is going to transfer from my drawn lines onto that white paper behind it. And by taping in a few areas, I'm able to lift up and check my work without the paper moving out of place. So I'm outlining my major features, details, and outlines, as well as going into my highlights and shadows to make sure that any area that I might need a little assistance with figuring out how to define and paint will be already outlined for me. You'll see the image a little bit better in a second here, but I'm just wiping away a little bit of the extra powder before I use a hairspray. You could also use fixative to fix that hard chalk powder to the surface. I decided I wanted to use black acrylic paint as well as this mechanical pencil to detail in some of my shadows and to define my features a little better before I actually started using my oil paints. This is kind of a newer thing I've been trying here and there. I can do light sketching with the black acrylic paint and a very fine tipped paintbrush, and by using that acrylic it'll dry really fast, so I don't have to worry about going on top of it with oils next and it blending together. This next part of the audio is going to fly. We have our basic palette right here. I'm starting out with some peachy tones, just using titanium white and cadmium orange. It doesn't have to be too realistic because this is the very initial stage of filling in our image. I'm thinking a little bit about the more realistic colors, developing some of the peach tones, and then I'm also thinking about how from the side of the composition there's this really warm, hot pink color that comes across the face. Now I'm going to build this up in thin layers. We're going to talk about the color a little bit at first, but then we're going to move on to talking about other things like layering and also also the miracle that occurred on day 2 of making this painting. I'm using cadmium red to bring a little rouge into her lips and into the blush areas of her face. And by adding some phthalo yellow green to the pink mixture that we have, I found that it created this really interesting neutral yet glowing shadow to go underneath the neck. The next shadow color I wanted to make was using our quinacridone magenta and phthalo blue. I like having a little hue contamination to muddle my colors. Using this purple shadowy color, I'm going to fill in some of my initial stages of shadowing so we can begin to sculpt the face and create a greater sense of our midtones, shadows, and highlights. Now on the left side, our palette is showing a mixture of phthalo yellow green and blue, also pulling in some of that purple shadow color to begin doing our unrealistic, our surreal colors. In addition to that hot pink, we also had a aqua blue that comes into this composition heavily. Now my first concern is going to be covering all of my paper, so things don't have to be perfect, but we're going to layer in color so that we can build up that surface and develop the image more. I work color into my background to shape the negative space around my hair. I work highlights into various areas to further definition, and using just blue and magenta or red, the darkest colors on my palette, I can create really deep colors without using any black. Day 2 was a miraculous day. Overnight, since I had worked so thin with my oil paints and had used liquid as my medium, which speeds drying time, the next morning my tripod fell over and knocked my coffee cup over the painting, and it was luckily dry enough that I was able to put a rag directly on top of my painting and sop up all of my coffee without the painting getting destroyed. Luckily, the primer came in and helped seal that paper, and also we had a fast drying layer, so cheers to that miracle of this week. It's good to go through stages recognizing that your painting's not going to look really well defined from an early stage. You need time for the layers of paint to build up a fleshiness. It's easy to call it fleshiness in a portrait because you can think of the layers as skin building up, but the paint getting thicker allows me to do things like take a wider clean brush and brush things over back and forth to fill in gaps between my paint and to soften the general look of my paint, because early on in paintings I often have a bit of a pieciness to the way things are put together. It's more blocky, but as I go along the process I want to soften and blend between those colors. I've got a bit more paint built up on the surface, and I do find making final decisions about what I want an area of color to look like on my painting makes it look more finished. In this final staging, I was able to blend things together in the background with the hair so that I could push back that detailing and allow for the main detail work to come in around my subject's face and really defining the shadows in the eyes, some fine lines in the hair and in the eyelashes, with my abstract color features sitting to complement some of those details and realism in the end. I hope y'all enjoyed this process. If you did like this video, make sure you're subscribed. You can buy this at robinsealark.com and also check out that pre-order email sign up so you can be part of the giveaway and get an additional PDF this fall. Hope you guys have a fantastic week. I will see you later. Bye.